My name is Kenny Johnson, and I am hanging with Chris Gordon on the Hellblazer Biz.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, wherever you may be in the world right now. This is Hellblazer Biz with your host, Chris Gordon, bringing you interviews with the stars of TV and film. Today's guest is an esteemed actor of many roles over the years. Most notably, he was Curtis Leminsky in The Shield alongside Michael Chiklis. He's also well loved for his role as Herman Kozic in Sons of Anarchy and as Caleb Calhoun in Bates Motel. I'm proud to bring to you Mr. Kenny Johnson.
Right into this world all alone. You gotta take your soul, you're on your own. The crow flies straight, a perfect line, on the devil's bed until you die. Gotta look this life in the eye.
I have the privilege of the company of Kenny Johnson today. Kenny,
Hey,
how are
Chris.
you? Hey. Excellent. I do appreciate this, especially as you've just come out from looks like a heavy workout.
Yeah, it was. It was this guy, Lars. Lars is like the Swedish jiu-jitsu champion, and I normally train with Justin Fortune, who's Manny Pacquiao's strength and conditioning coach.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, Lars has been in the gym early, and he's been trying to get me to do his workout. So he kicked my ass the other day, and now he killed me just now. And brand new workouts, which are good, but it's like shocking my whole system. So yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Nice. I really need to get to the gym myself. I used to do wrestling. I'm 41, and I took up professional wrestling at the age of 38.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Holy crap. Okay.
Unfortunately, 18 months into it, I fell out of the ring and tore a quad muscle, and I've lost the use of a quad muscle in my leg, so I can't get back in the ring again.
Oh man. I
Sadly.
just did a movie with Goldberg. Goldberg.
Oh, yeah.
Goldberg. So he played my best friend in this film, and he's going back now in the Royal Rumble. He just beat Brock Lesnar, and he's going back to do 9 appearances and then get into the Royal Rumble to see if he's going to be, and he's a guy, he's like 48 now or something like that. I mean, he's getting up there, and he's got a lot of injuries. I mean, when we shot the film, he gets through it, but he trains like a mofo, but he's got a ton of injuries that he fights through. He's got that, you got to have that killer mentality, no matter what. I mean, if you want to be the best of the best, nothing's going to stop you, and he's one of those guys,
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, I think 2 years ago, there's one of the British guys, Lionheart, I think his wrestling gimmick is. He broke his neck in the ring. He actually broke it, but 12 months later, he was back in there.
That's crazy.
Thankfully, it wasn't a severe break. It was just like a crack on one move. But yeah, 12 months later, as you say, determination. He got straight back up there. Me, I'm just a lazy ass.
No, you're smarter than others, man. I mean, you really don't want to be, you don't want to get into that position where, look, you break your neck, you sever a spine, you're in a wheelchair the rest of your life, wait out. Do you want to actually chance that or, not? If you're the best of the best in the world, I could see maybe somebody's like, that's just in my genetics, I need to, and I'll live or die by that. But if you're not the best of the best, make the right decision and find something else like what you're doing right now, which is awesome,
Oh yeah, definitely. I've got to say, as a TV and film fan, I'm much preferring this, to be fair.
Yeah.
I get to hang out and chat with my favourite guys.
Right on, brother.
Brilliant.
Right on.
As you know, I've got a lot of questions for you.
All right.
We'll get through as many as we can.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll be here all day. So.
That's all right, man.
Cool. So, what made you decide to become an actor in the first place?
It was kind of, I feel like it kind of chose me, I grew up watching TV shows and fantasizing. I remember when, Happy Days was on, and I remember they took a trip out to, Hollywood, where Fonz was going to do an appearance or something, and somehow they liked Richie Cunningham. Yeah. But I remember growing up in Vermont on a farm, and they came from a small town and flew out to L.A., and it got planted in my head, like, wow, wouldn't that be cool to get out of a small town and do something like that? Yeah. But I never thought of it beyond that. And I was in like 7th grade or something like that, or, whatever it was. And I played sports in college, and I thought I was going to be a pro sports player, but I got an injury and broke my fifth lumbar vertebrae, and so that kind of knocked me out of actually pursuing that to where I wanted to, and I realized that wasn't going to happen. So didn't know what I wanted to do. I got in a lot of trouble back in Boston. I grew up in the East Coast, and I don't know. I just wasn't close with my family, so I got on a plane one day, made a decision to come to California. I didn't know anybody. I thought, come here, and I was modeling at the time in Boston as a thing to do. It's not because I thought, I want to be a model, but somebody suggested it and hooked me up with an agency. I made money, and I came out here, and I did that with like Ford and Wilhelmina, and I started out with Tommy Hilfiger before he hit it big, and I did Ocean Pacific and Speedos and PCH and a bunch of lines, Mizuno, and it was just until I figured out what I wanted to do, and accidentally somebody wrote a film and brought it to me and said, look, I did this thing and I wrote a part as my best friend. Would you do it? And I said, I said no, like for 3 weeks straight. I said, I'm not an actor. I've never acted. And he goes, yeah, but I wrote it for you. And I'm like, so I said, if you get somebody to help me memorize it, because I had a really bad reading disability, like dyslexia, but severely, and I didn't realize that's what it was at the time. I just thought I couldn't read. Right. So he had a girl help me learn the role, and just the first, I had a few epiphanies in my life and kind of experiences where I wasn't really religious or didn't really understand what God was, but I had a few experiences like totaling cars where things like kept me in place with no seatbelt, and I remember never hitting anything, and the cars were all crunched, and I just realized something else was out there. So when I was doing this film, the first take of the first scene, I just remember standing there watching about 100 people all around me running around like little ants, and I was very calm, and I'm like watching, and I didn't know what I was doing except for I'm in the scene, and this is between me and another guy. And I heard somebody say roll sound, and as I heard action, everything froze. Like in a movie, everything stood still, and this thing whooshed through me like this whoosh, and this voice said, this is what you're going to do the rest of your life. And then it whooshed out the back of me, and then everybody started moving. And I was like, what's that? I'm like, that was so weird, but it was a voice that was like a truth voice, and I don't know where it came from, but I'm like, shit. I go, okay, now I have to do this thing, follow this thing. We did the movie, and it won a bunch of awards, and then I started seeking out the best acting teachers and coaches and things that I could find in the country, and I studied every day, probably 12 to 16 hours a day, like 5-6 days a week for 4 years, trying to take in what I could. And I had a lot of phobias and personal issues, so it made me address those. And it wasn't like, oh, I want to be an actor, no, I can't wait. But I did try to overcome everything I was bad at. And through it just kind of brought me to a place where I think I processed a lot of real issues in my life. And once I got out the other side, I felt like I had a piece of something to share through characters, but not selfishly, but really to breathe my experiences without ever having to tell anybody what my life was or what I'd been through through characters. And that's kind of how I did it. So it was by accident, but in retrospect, it kind of saved my life and it gave me a purpose, so.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know if that sounds weird or whatever, but that's my story.
Yeah. It's a powerful story as well. I think it's the first time I've ever heard that kind of a background, that kind of a story turning your life around like that. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. I know what you mean. There's a kind of a moment where it just everything just fits into place. Yeah. Clarity sort of hits you, and then that's it then.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that was it. I mean, I got to say, I was a person who didn't appreciate life or people, and I just wanted to hide, and I was very phobic, and I just didn't like life or even being here, so it was weird how this thing kind of came to me, and it made me actually fall in love with people and life. And I traveled the world, and I studied cultures, and I did everything before I actually wanted to get on film, because I wanted to give something genuine. I didn't want to be fake. And I'm like, this is my one life and one time in life. It's just like, so do what you can to take in, and then how can you give back, And I try to be an example of some sort, you know, in a good way. I try, you know.
No, that's cracking. Really is good. And I think it's brilliant. The fact that you do portray these characters on screen as well, you know, it's definitely a role model because people do look up to people on TV, and especially yourself. The characters that you have played have been quite, what's the word, tormented as well in their own right, but they've always had a good heart. You know, Lem and Kozic, they're always really down in their hearts. They're good guys, and it's good to see that you have got that, you know. There's that tormentor in those characters that you play, and it seems to come through a lot in your career, I think.
Well, thank you, man. I mean, the writing for something like The Shield is really kind of, it's kind of really, really, you know, it's pretty brilliant in itself. It's like, you know, I mean, life imitates art imitates life, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, we all have flaws, and we're all trying to be better people. We all mess up all the time. And, like, do we learn from it or not? Or do we go through the same lessons? And, like, Lem is a perfect example of, you know, he goes along with stuff. He tries to do the right thing, but he knows inside what they're doing progressively gets morally wrong. And he's challenged, and ethically it's just like, this is bad. And they're, you know, once they mess up and they get the wrong guy and they kill him and get rid of him in acid or something and burn his body, I started thinking, like, realistically, I go, what if me in real life Kenny did this? I go, what would happen? Like, I couldn't sleep at night, you know? So then the more I got into the characters and would, you know, shoot during the day, and I would freebase writing journals every night for 20 or 30 pages just because I wanted to keep my life alive, you know? And I started having problems sleeping. And then I started getting, like, real stomach ulcers, and that all played into it because Sean started writing for all that stuff, because the more I would talk about it, the more he wrote for it, you know, because he's like, oh, this is great because it's real, you know. It's like, so it's kind of wild, you know.
That's pretty awesome, man. The Shield's got to be one of my favourite cop shows of all time. It's just it's just brilliantly done. Like I say, you guys as the actors, and obviously the writing behind it as well, the storylines were just phenomenal. And you know, it's hard to explain, but
I guess
you really like, you know, you weren't exactly the best of guys out there, but in the end game, all you wanted to do was put things to right, and put the city to its right, you know, rightful place, and whichever means it took.
Does the end justify the means? I mean, that was like the big question. And it's like funny, like season 5 when Forrest Whitaker, you know, is a brilliant actor, and he's IAD, and he's trying to bring us down, and he personally was shocked by how many people hated him because he was trying to bring us down, and we were like not good guys. And he was like, what is wrong with people out there? He goes, I'm actually doing the right thing, and my character's doing the right thing, and people hate me. He was like so confused by it all. It's like, it's funny how they cheer for the, you know,
the anti-hero, isn't it?
If I'm sweating, it's because I did an hour and a half of Kundalini yoga, and I came here to do that boxing workout for another hour and a half. So I had 3 hours of workout, which is and it's hot outside. So
that's all right.
That's my whole sweat deal.
That's not a problem. What kind of inspirations? Who were your inspirations when you started out acting? Any screen icons or anyone that you looked up to?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I went back and I think I watched about 300 black and white films. So the old ones, and I would say Montgomery Clift was my favorite actor, you know, and then Brando, James Dean, Marilyn Monroe. I watched, you know, a lot of Bette Davis before she hit it big, and then Elizabeth Taylor, and then you know, Cary Grant. I watched all the black and white films, and before I watched any regular ones, you know, and I kind of felt like, you know, and there was a realism about like Montgomery Clift that was the first time he ever tried that on screen, and it changed the face of how people acted, and there was something very real about all that stuff, and I just wanted to be real when I acted. For me, I mean, it was all about like, is this believable and genuine? And that's all I wanted, to find the truth of things, you know. I mean, that was my journey, you know.
Excellent. Well, those kind of films as well, they're very classic acting styles, and it's before the years of what do you call it, SFX and stuff, where people and green screens and things like that. So, you know, it was a proper. Everyone was proper interactions between people, and so it's a great era, I think, probably to study when you're looking into going in. Not that I know, but yeah,